final from Charlotte, North Carolina, as they go on to win. I'm Kevin Carroll. Welcome to the Buffalo End Zone Podcast.
And I'm Andy Young, the Buffalo End Zone Podcast, presented proudly by Toyota. And what a night it was for the Buffalo Bills. Nothing's finer, Kevin, than a trip to Carolina.
And you say night, Andy, because the Bills always play at night. This was an afternoon game at 1 o'clock, and the Bills sure took advantage of a Carolina Panthers team, Andy, who just isn't in the same ballpark as the Bills. And refreshing to see the Bills take care of business against a bad team the way you would want them to. I mean, they just put this game away on the heels of James Cook in a great defensive effort. Andy Dalton in as the backup never stood a chance in this one, Andy. So much to dive into, but you got to start with Cook in the running game.
Yeah, I mean, for the Bills to come down here and win this game the way they did, and we both, I think, Kevin, before the game, were a little concerned about Carolina winning 3 straight, going into this one, 4 out of 5, a rushing attack that was pretty good, and a rushing defense that was very good, and James Cook absolutely shredded them. 216 rushing yards, most by a Bills player since O.J. Simpson in 1976, couple of touchdowns, including the long 64-yard breaker that they've been waiting for him to hit one of those, and he did it. And my, oh my, averaged more than 11 yards per carry, goes over 200 yards on 19 carries. Just a really impressive effort. And I said after the game, I think we all know that Josh Allen is the pilot for the Buffalo Bills offense, but James Cook right now is the engine that makes it go, and he was a jet engine in this one. Just an unstoppable force. Shout out to the offensive line. Great job there by them. Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, really nice job blocking throughout the course of the game, especially on that 64-yard touchdown run. He crushed his block right in the hole, and then James Cook goes untouched. So this is the recipe for success for the Bills. We've said it time and time again. With the passing game a little bit mired, a little bit stuck in the mud at times outside of Khalil Shakir, this is James Cook's show. And when he's rolling, the Bills are rolling. And man, oh man, was he good in this one.
Yeah, James Cook, his effort also helped out, as you said, by the offensive line, by Gilliam. Sean McDermott, Andy, quick to point out, too, that while the passing game wasn't great at times, the receivers were doing a bang-up job in the defensive backfield, helping Cook gain all those extra yards throughout this entire game.
Yeah, I liked what our analyst, former Bills wide receiver Stevie Johnson, had to say about this in the Buffalo End Zone postgame show on the TV side. He said, look, everybody eats doesn't just mean in the passing game, getting numbers, right? Getting receiving yards and catches. Comes down to blocking in the run game, blocking for your fellow receivers in the passing game. And the more that they're able to get guys to do that and contribute in that way, at least they're contributing somewhere, because like the passing game, not there so much, especially deep down the field. We'll get more into that. But to have guys with that unselfishness, with that willingness and that ability to block for the run game and in the passing game is really critical to the Bills' offensive success.
Yeah, Bills' passing game, not great in this one, Andy. Josh Allen didn't even get 200 yards. Had that one touchdown pass to Khalil Shakir, but Andy, that was all Khalil Shakir. And they talk about maybe we don't have to make big plays down the field, getting a short pass to Shakir and letting him turn it into a big play is how they're going to get big plays. I just don't think they can rely on that constantly, that Shakir is going to be able to do that. But that play where Allen hit Shakir right into the teeth of the blitz, and you mentioned Stevie Johnson on our postgame show, he broke it down for me, and he's like, that's it. That's what Josh has to do, is go right into the teeth, because if there's bodies coming at him, there's not bodies where Khalil Shakir went, who just did a stop route and just took it the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a guy like Shakir, who is as sure-handed as he is and so good in short area quickness, and then has the ability to either make guys miss or bounce off tackles like he did in this case, you got to get the ball in his hands. I mean, to me, there's 3 guys that you really have to worry about if you're opposing defenses for the Bills. Number 1, it's James Cook. Number 2, it's Khalil Shakir, and a close second or third is Dalton Kincaid, who had a nice catch in this game as well in his return to action. So, I mean, to get the ball in the hands of Shakir and do it quickly, well, that's going to be a remedy for when teams want to blitz Allen because they don't have a lot of fear of the outside wide receivers. Like Stevie said, smart football. Throw it to where they just came from, right? And then let those guys do some damage in space. So, I mean, that's going to have to be what it is until they either get this pass game figured out with the outside receivers they have, or they don't at all, or they end up maybe making a trade for somebody. So, I mean, kudos to Brady and to Allen for recognizing that and making that play, and more plays like that in this game. The short screen passes, the quick flips over to Shakir. I mean, that might be the way you have to go at times, an extension of the run game. But, I mean, if you're talking about extensions of the run game is pretty damn good. So that's going to help. I don't think it's sustainable completely long term. Really good defenses are going to try to take that stuff away. They know that. I mean, go back to the Chiefs AFC Championship game last year. Think about that, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of deal. They bring the heat, and Allen doesn't really have anywhere to go often.
Yeah, and Allen, I think as the game went on, Andy started to play better, but he still looked like the Josh Allen against the Patriots and the Falcons, a little frustrated at times, wasn't smiling like his grandma had asked him to until the second half. But I think with the heavy dose of James Cook, it kind of started to loosen things up. Allen said early in the game, coming off the bye week, he wasn't trusting his feet. But as the game went on, he started to, and that was part of the problem. He had Elijah Moore wide open and so uncharacteristically missed him down the field. It was starting to feel like this was going to have the makings of the Bills only really settling for field goals on the offensive side of the ball. But they came around in the second half, and again, kudos to Khalil Shakir and James Cook for helping it out. But I still think Allen's going through a rough patch right now.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I thought he was not sharp, especially early on. There was a sequence for the Bills offense when they were rolling down the field early on in the game where Deion Dawkins gets a false start penalty. Then there's an illegal formation on the tush push where they could have gone in to try to score or, get a first down. And then Allen scrambled all over the field, nobody open, and takes a sack. That was troublesome. And then you're talking about that play where Elijah Moore runs a deep crosser, a deep over, running towards the left sideline from Josh Allen's point of view, and just airmailed him. And you don't see that very often, especially on those kind of plays. You see it a little more often maybe on the streak plays deep down the sidelines where Allen used to overthrow guys a lot. But those overs and crossers, he's usually money on that, and he looked off. But I think as the game wore on, he got back into it a little more, and they're going to need him to be Josh Allen at some point, right? They're going to need him to be the 300-yard, 4-touchdown MVP running all over the field kind of Josh Allen that we've come to know and expect at some points during this season. So he's got to get himself back in a better place and trusting his receivers somehow, some way. I know that not always it's the receiver's fault. Sometimes it's a Joe Brady problem. Sometimes it's a Josh Allen problem. And that was the case a couple of times in this game.
How do you look at how Joe Brady called this game today? There was a lot of talk, right, that, maybe a revenge game for Brady, that he was going to come out and come up with something big. I still feel, at least in the beginning of this game, that it just doesn't seem right still right now. I get it. Andy, you put up 40 points. I should shut my mouth, right?
Yes.
But you have the Chiefs coming up, and there's concern there.
I thought the play calling was exactly how it needed to go. They didn't have to be putting the ball up time and time again. They didn't need to have Josh Allen sitting back there getting pressured and running around. He did a little bit, but when you're running the ball with James Cook at nearly 12 yards a clip and you're running the same play over and over, that toss play kept going for 10 and 12 and then, 60 some yards at times, because I think Brady, in this case, was right to stay with James Cook and right to continue to pound the rock with him. And when you get that big lead, and we'll get to this point too, I think part of what helps them in this case is that the defense really helped them out in this one, that they could stick with that running game and that rushing attack and not have to put the ball in the air a ton of times. And when you're having short fields and Cook's running the way he is, that's going to breed a lot of success for the Bills. So I'm fine with what Joe Brady did in this one. They weren't tested. He wasn't tested in terms of having to open the ball up a lot through the air, but I thought it was a pretty good game plan by them. And then the way the game played out, the script of the game necessitated, I mean, my God, give it to James Cook every time.
Absolutely, 100%. And give James Cook the star of the game. Right behind him, though, as you started to mention there, was this Bills defense who came to play in this one. Given Andy Dalton's a backup, but he's a veteran. He has the experience. But the turnovers, Andy, the sacks, like we finally saw the Bills defense get to the quarterback and get him on the ground. Now, again, it's Andy Dalton. I think we talked about this leading up to the game. Not the most mobile of quarterbacks with the ability to get out of the way. But the turnovers and the fact that 7 sacks in this one for 45 yards.
Yeah, I mean, we talked before the game, and it doesn't take a genius or Captain Obvious to know. And I said this. Some people said, oh, I'd rather play Bryce Young than Andy Dalton. No way. Andy Dalton at this point in his career, when he's back to pass, you know where he's going to be. He's not scrambling out of harm's way. He's not making plays with his legs. He's not a threat at all in that regard. So the Bills, even they said it. We could pin our ears back and know where he's going to be, and they did just that. Bosa gets involved. A.J. Epinesa gets involved. Michael Hoecht. I mean, Ed Oliver, everybody gets involved in this thing. Greg Rousseau. And that's what you need from this Bills pass rush up front. Now, also, I think something that was really key, I thought the key to victory for the Panthers in this game was getting Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. They're two fantastic running backs who've had a really nice year to this season, to this point this season, to get them going, because we know how bad the Bills' rush defense has been. And they held those two guys in check. I think the 88 total yards between the two of them on 20 carries, you'll take that all day if you're the Bills, right? Helps the offense gets you a lead and you keep building on that lead. But when you're able to shut down the other team's rushing attack and make the Panthers one-dimensional, and you know where Andy Dalton's going to be standing, it's 5 to 7 yards deep every time, and you can go to that spot. Boom, there you have it, a recipe for success.
Yeah, the Bills' run defense really impressed me in this one. You know, since the second half of the Atlanta game, I think they've looked really good, Andy. And talk about a crazy ending to the first half. It looked like the Panthers were going to make a game of it, but how everything unfolded towards the end of the half, and then I think it was Bosa or Rousseau gets a sack when, you know, the Panthers could not afford it. They tried to rush the kick team out there to kick a field goal, but they were in really bad shape, and that was maybe the worst we saw the Bills defense the entire day. The rest of the day, they really kept everything in check, and the Bills got help because the Panthers were a mess and time just ran out.
Yeah, the Panthers made a few troublesome decisions. Dalton's got to be better than that in that spot. He can't take a sack there. They had no timeouts. I think there was 16 seconds when the play began, and then they try to rush the kicker out to make the field goal, and they miss it. And Rousseau comes up. So, yeah, the Panthers cost themselves. And maybe after this game, you pump the brakes a little bit on the Panthers hype that I think they're okay. They're ascending. Probably not as good as maybe some people, including myself, thought they were going into this game. But, yeah, that Bills defense did a pretty nice job. I am concerned with that Oliver going out first half. Bicep injury, did not return to the game. I mean, if you listen to the medical analysts like Dr. Chow and banged up Bills, there's concern there about a torn biceps. And, we'll see what Sean McDermott has to say moving forward here. But for a team that was already really thin at defensive tackle, that could loom large because he's their best defensive tackle.
Yeah, it stinks for Ed Oliver, who was having a good game too. But
got to mention too, Kevin, real quick. They did this in a lot of ways. They didn't have Matt Milano or Terrell Bernard in this game. Bernard didn't play. He was kind of an emergency player, and Matt Milano sat out with his injury. So for those guys to step up with Shaq Thompson, who's been their best linebacker all season, back home in Carolina, Joe Andreessen got reps. when they went to their heavy package, and Dorian Williams. So kudos to them, who've been criticized heavily at times this season, has that linebacking crew. And it's interesting. They had a pretty solid outing without either of their starters.
Yeah, solid outing. And the reinforcements were back, Andy. And
Yep.
Michael Hoecht made himself noticeable. Also, Max Hairston. But let's start with Hoecht because he really popped off the page. And, you know, we were joking around earlier in the week that you could tell he was just dying to get back out there and play a little football. And sure enough, he looked the part out there. I think he had 2.5 sacks, 2 sacks, something like that.
Sack and a half, yeah.
But he looks like the real deal and looks like he could really help out if this Bills defensive line is shorthanded with the different places where they can line him up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. His versatility is absolutely huge, and he brings that energy and that high motor and that relentlessness. Smarts, we've talked about that. And the ability to move him inside on passing downs, especially when you lose that Oliver, who's your best pass rushing defensive tackle, you can kick him inside. You can solidify your fourth defensive end spot with Epinesa and with Rousseau and Bosa. And that really forms a nice pair or set of defensive ends out there. And then you can rotate in Javon Solomon as you need to, or Landon Jackson, who was inactive for this game. But yeah, Hoecht came in there like a guy whose hair was on fire, and he was out there playing, and he was noticeable right from the jump in this thing. And I mean, it's like he kind of said, he was treating it like he was traded for in the middle of the season, but he already knew the playbook, and he looked like it out there.
Absolutely. And which I did not even think there was a chance that we would see Max Hairston playing this week. But the first round pick, the cornerback, gets out there, gets his feet wet a little bit, Andy, kind of works into the game as the game rolls along, and actually has a tackle that looked really good in a spot where he was out kind of by himself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I was surprised like you. I thought that the Bills would take their time with Max Hairston, but now in hindsight, of course, those goggles are 2020, right? Thinking about how good he looked in practice in terms of his movement, fluidity, the athleticism was clearly there, and he didn't look like he was hesitating at all. So that must have given the Bills confidence throughout the week, and that he had done enough from a study perspective, classroom perspective, to be able to go out there with just 1 week of practice in 3 months. He hadn't practiced since the first week of training camp. We're talking at the end of July.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been a long time for that guy to go out there. So for the Bills to trust in him in that regard, and then go out there and let him split reps with Trey White. Trey got the first series, and then they alternated. They rotated after that. And yeah, the tackle you mentioned was a really nice play. Panthers player had the ball out in space along the sidelines, and it was a one-on-one with he and Maxwell Hairston, and he drove right through and made the tackle and got him down for a short gain. And he said after the game, I asked him about it, he said, man, that did feel good. Just getting that pop of the pads against somebody else. Said it woke him up, and he was right back in it. Now, I almost feel like, to me, this was a preseason game for him in some regards, because now his first test is not against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now he's got his legs under him a little bit. He's got some experience under his belt, and now he'll be able to step out there potentially and, have to guard Patrick Mahomes and those receivers for the Chiefs. They're looking really good right now.
I think it's great that he got his feet wet. I mean, we both go at it looking at how the Bills treat injuries in the past and that they do a slower ramp-up time. We even talked about him not even playing in the Chiefs game as well, but it looks like this is going to pay dividends that they brought him back and started rotating him in. So if he needs to be used or is going to be used against the Chiefs, like you said, that's not his first taste of the NFL going up against one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played the position.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it'll be fun to see the fastest guys of the last couple of combines potentially go up against each other, and Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs against Maxwell Hairston for the Bills. Obviously, a lot of storylines there. We know all about that with the Keon Coleman trade. So that'll be interesting. And that he's the kind of guy who, with the ability to either play man coverage or play in zone and react quickly and make a play on the ball, is why they brought him in, right? Mm-hmm. Like when they had to go man to man, last year in the playoffs when Benford got hurt and, they're dealing with it, they didn't have anybody out there. And so he brings that athleticism and that speed. So getting his feet wet there, obviously big. And I thought it was interesting too, Kevin. I wanted to bring this up. The way they did things in the secondary was a little different in this game. So Jordan Poyer gets in with Taylor Rapp now on IR, who Sean McDermott said, look, he's been battling through it. We felt the need to kind of just shut him down, let him reset and get back to where he needs to be. So Poyer's in more on the running downs, almost playing a pseudo linebacker, right, in some regards, with Cole Bishop. And then on passing downs, they kind of switch things out. And you bring Taron Johnson back out at nickel for Joe Andreessen. And then you bring Jordan Hancock, another rookie, onto the field at safety, who's got more speed and more range. And I think maybe the Bills realized, given injuries and the limitations of some of their players and the way they played, that maybe not just having the same 5 guys or 6 guys in the secondary all the time was the best route. Let's play to our strengths and matchups. Let's sub guys in. Let's go to dime when we need to. Cam Lewis saw plenty of action as well in this game. And I thought that was a nice little adjustment by the Bills under Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich.
How did you think at the end of the day Jordan Poyer performed in this one? And was this just that they noticed something on passing downs where they didn't feel comfortable with Poyer out there, or that Hancock was just better suited for these situations, and maybe this is just how it is moving forward?
Yeah, I thought Poyer was fine in the role that they gave him, which is important. Like, clearly he is not 2019, 2020, 2021 Jordan Poyer anymore when he was an all-pro, and that's okay, right? Like, guys slow down, but he's still really smart. He knows where to be. He's tough. He's physical. I think that plays well if you need to put him in there and have somebody help out with the run game a little bit. And then I think you can use Jordan Hancock, who's younger, more athletic, probably has a little more range in those passing situations. So I thought that was a good adjustment by the Bills to go that route. Might be the way we see things going forward. We'll see how it all shakes out. I did think it was interesting, too, that Sean McDermott did say that he and Bobby Babich kind of shared the play calling duties after the game.
Interesting.
So I mean, maybe Sean has kind of stepped up and thought, look, this defense has been bad pretty much all season. We got to do something a little different here. Whether he's calling the plays all the time or directly, or, it's more of a collaboration, I don't know. But obviously that helped in this game at least.
Not the first time he's done that, right? Like McDermott did that with Leslie Frazier years ago, and it helped the defense back then to kind of step their game up.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? And maybe it's good if Babich can take a look at it from a different perspective and kind of see the way Sean's calling it. I mean, he's been here for a long time with McDermott. You would think he knows a lot of that, but just the actual duty of play calling, right, can be difficult. Like dialing up the right thing at the right time, knowing what the other team is going to do or you think they're going to do, and the way you can attack that. Obviously, when you get, 2 or 3 turnovers and 7 sacks and you limit the run game, I mean, that's exactly what you need every game, right? This is one of those like old school from a couple of years ago, Bills dominating defensive performances.
I got to give a shout out to my guy, AJ Epinesa.
Yeah.
And it like, you almost want to call it the AJ Epinesa play, because he's so good at getting up and batting balls down, and half the time he ends up catching it and goes the other way. So close to a touchdown in this one, but didn't get it there. But it's like, you're not surprised when AJ Epinesa does that. Yeah, that's what the guy does.
Right. Like, typically he's not a spectacular player, but every now and then he makes a play like that where he knows when to time the jump and when to get up there to try to bat the ball down. And like you said, occasionally has the good hands to pick it off, and rumbled all the way down to the 1 yard line. Probably took some flack from his teammates for not scoring there. The Bills able to punch it in right after that. But I mean, really, really good awareness, hands, coordination, all that stuff from Epinesa. And like, that's the kind of plays you need when it's not the guy that's always the superstar, but just a steady, continuous part of this team. And, from time to time, he makes plays like that.
Absolutely. How important, Andy? I mean, we talked about this. They're coming off the bye week. They lost 2 in a row. I mean, bigger picture here, looking at not only the AFC East, because the Patriots won once again. They had the crummy Browns, so there's no surprise there. But still, the entire AFC picture basically remains the same. We're recording this while games are still going on. But at the end of the day, it just seems like everything's playing out where the Bills are in for a battle this year. And, we had talked about that a little bit in our preseason show where we looked at how the season is going to play out. And, who knew about Indianapolis and who knew about the Patriots back then? But now here the Bills are. They're in a battle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Patriots are really good. They're strong. They've got such an easy schedule. The Bills have an easy schedule too, but the Patriots is easier. And now they've got a leg up on them with a game in hand against them with that win back at Highmark Stadium on Sunday Night Football a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I mean, look, the Bills, I think, are probably going to still wind up in that 13, 14 win area, but it might take more. And if you want to get the 1 seed, you're going to have to go on a really big run. When that starts with the Chiefs next week, that's a huge game. Think about if the Bills had lost this game.
Oh boy.
People would be really, really concerned about where they're headed and the potential to drop to 4-4. So now you're 5-2. You're still a half game or whatever it is, game and a half, however you want to look at it, behind the Patriots. You still play them again. And then you're still a game up on the Chiefs, who I don't think were even in a playoff spot coming into this one, but everybody's in the power rankings has them as number one because all of a sudden their offense is good again. So this is another big game, and this is what it's going to take. You got to beat the Chiefs in this game if you want to try to earn a 1 seed and even just win the division, right? Because then, if the Patriots continue to roll, you can't afford to lose another conference game.
I go back and forth on, is this outcome, the 40-9 final, a good thing going into what's going to be a tough game against the Chiefs, albeit against a bad opponent? I think if you're the Buffalo Bills, Andy, you look at this as we're close to being back because we beat the crap out of a team that we should beat the crap out of and not let them hang around like the Saints and the Dolphins, to get the team in a right frame of mind, getting ready for what will be the biggest regular season game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you to come down here and just take care of business. Was it perfect? No. Do we want to gripe and complain about the wide receivers and the passing game and Allen being off at the start of the game? Of course. But here's the good part about that. The Bills know that too, right? It's not like they're just going to fly back to Buffalo and go sit in Orchard Park for the next week and rest on their laurels and have a party. Like, they know it wasn't perfect. But confidence-wise, to have some guys coming back healthier, to have James Cook rolling the way that he is, that's a good thing. And it breeds confidence, especially after the way they had played those 2 games before the bye. So kudos on them for doing what they were supposed to do. We all say it, like, blow bad teams out. Well, they did that, and there's still room to improve. And I think Allen even alluded to that after the game, that like, hey, look, we put up 40 points. And again, we've said it time and time again, there's still meat left on the bone for the Bills, especially offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. And this played out that maybe it plays out the way it did last year. Bills lose 2 in a row. Everyone wants to pull their hair out of their head. And then the team ends up making the corrections that need to be made and right the ship. This game against the Chiefs is going to be really interesting, especially with that mentality of losing to the Chiefs in the regular season so you can beat them in the playoffs. So I don't think anyone would jump off a cliff if things went wrong against the Chiefs now.
They still will.
But at the same time, Andy, you got to feel good that if you're the Bills, that you're in a good space now, because maybe 2 weeks ago, the Bills barely get by in this game today.
Yeah, I think just putting the pedal to the metal and doing it in a way that you wanted to do it, right? You didn't have to throw the football over the field. Would they love to be able to do that? Yeah, but that's not the team they are. So they're going to drop the hammer with Cook. And when you're getting the opportunistic defense to go with Cook, that's what you need. if your defense is getting gashed, well, you can't run the ball that much and stay successful and stay ahead of the chains. And if you get behind or it's a tight game, that changes things. So now you feel good about the way you're playing generally as a team with some confidence heading into, like what you said, is a massive game in the standings and for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and we'll get deeper into this massive game coming up on Wednesday after we hear from Coach McDermott. The team returns to the practice field on Wednesday, start to get ready. So that's the next Buffalo End Zone podcast coming up on Wednesday. And that's a big one, Andy, as we get ready for the Chiefs. We'll see how the rest of the weekend plays out in the NFL and just take a look at the shape of everything in the AFC as we kind of inch closer to the midway mark of the season.
Yeah, before we go, do us a favor, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, give us a rating, share the Buffalo End Zone podcast. We're sharing it with you everywhere we can now, right? We're on TV on Wednesdays during the week, at least on the regular media days for the Bills, whenever that is. Usually Wednesdays will be this coming Wednesday. Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock on Spectrum News 1 in Buffalo and Rochester. You can always find us here on YouTube, on Apple, on Facebook, on Spotify. We're everywhere, my guy, and SpectrumLocalNews.com.
Everywhere indeed, Andy. That's going to do it for this week. As always, everyone, thanks for joining us.